Hello again and welcome to another episode of the Franchise Everything podcast, where we talk about everything and anything franchising. And today I'm down in Sydney and I'm being joined by Carla Sconce, who is the founder of HIIT Pilates. How are you going, Carla?
Very well, thank you, Glenn. How are you?
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for coming.
Now, we arrived in here today to set up and everything like that, and it's not the normal Pilates sort of studio environment. It was very noisy.
Definitely not. It's very loud. It's very energetic. I actually find when people come to the studio for the first time, obviously we triage people. It's like, have you done Pilates before?
Triage people, yeah.
And I'm more happy when they say no, because then I'm like, perfect. Then you've got no preconceived ideas about what this is going to be, because we're so different to your regular Pilates studio.
What is HIIT Pilates? Can you describe the brand?
Yeah, so HIIT Pilates basically is a 50-minute workout that combines high-intensity interval training with full-body reformer. So we break our week down into Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays. We have our sweat days. So that means the HIIT component, 12 minutes at the start of the class, is all cardio focused. Mm-hmm. It's a circuit of exercises, much like you do with a PT. And then the rest of it's on the reformer. And then
so you get a little bit of that PT thing.
Yeah, 12 minutes. So it's a good section of the class, and we push you as hard as you can go. Honestly, like if you want to throw up, that's probably a good class. And then on our strength days, Tuesdays, Thursdays and Sundays, again, 12 minutes of circuit-based training off the reformer with dumbbells, pushing the clients to go as hard as they can. But with classes that are only 12 people, our instructors are walking around and making sure that everyone's doing everything really well. So we pride ourselves on people not injuring themselves in our classes. And then obviously the 35 minutes of reformer. On a Saturday, we call it our Synergy Saturday. It combines cardio and strength. So on those classes, Saturday is the hardest class of the week. Absolutely.
And so we've jumped right into it, and I forgot to do my little entry at the start. We're actually talking about the HIIT Pilates franchise business model. So that's it. All right.
I get excited about the product.
I know, I noticed you.
I'm excited about the product.
I wanted to launch you straight into it because you looked like you were ready to go. So, okay, so it's what's different about that? Because, I mean, I've done a little bit of reformer Pilates. Can you just describe the two and what's different about what you're doing compared to what's out there, for example?
Look, there are a lot of reformer studios out there at the moment, and they all sort of follow the same formula of starting with footwork, moving into upper body work, and a good class will flow around the carriage. A lot of classes, though, do left side, right side, and quite traditional, quite limited in their flow and in their sequencing. So flow and sequencing is really important. When you do a class at HIIT Pilates, the time should really just go. At the end of 50 minutes, you think you've worked out really hard, be like, wow, where did that time go? The choreography of our classes is really important. So with Pilates reformer, you have more traditional styles, you've got more physio-led styles, and then you've got athletic styles. So
that was what I always thought. I mentioned when I said to start was that Pilates, before I knew anything about it, it always just reminded me of physio.
Definitely not.
Because it looks like physio equipment.
We can definitely modify, and we always do modify our classes for students who are coming with injuries or, coming back after rehabbing injuries. So we'll always obviously modify our classes and our exercises, but the idea for our classes is that it's a group workout where we are really pushing people to a level that might not be comfortable, but where they're going to find that they get results.
And it's interesting because you had your instructor in here before we got here and you set up, and you described it to me that was it challenging with community?
Yeah.
Was what you say you're trying to achieve?
We love our students. We know their names. We see their progress and we encourage them in class. I always say the best instructor is like a crazy cheerleader on the side. We want to make sure that we're asking them to do really hard stuff but we lead them and we direct them. So a big part of our classes as well, there's not a demonstrator bed. There's, the instructor is constantly walking around and fixing people and adjusting people, because I think it is so important that people do push themselves past that comfort level, but they do so safely in an guided environment. So again, with our studios, and I think this is very different, is we have 12 beds. That means that the instructor to student ratio is at a healthy level.
So often do other places have a lot more, do they?
You go into some studios and the reformers, if you can see here, that the reformers are so well spaced, and that's because we do use the space either side of the reformer for the HIIT component.
Yep.
But a lot of studios are just jam them in, and you can't even do, I'm going to say, feet and straps, and you're going to have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about. But an exercise where you're lying down the bed and you're moving the legs. I've worked at studios before where we actually had to either not teach that exercise because it highlighted the fact that we didn't have enough space to teach it, or we sort of guided the students to go, okay, look to your right, look to your left. One of your legs is going to go low and the other one's legs are going to go high. And that was
it's a bit of a red flag.
Just normal. That was absolutely normal. So when I set up back in 2020 with my first studio, I wanted space. I wanted a sense of space and luxury when they're coming into the studio. I wanted to have a masculine vibe because I wanted guys to come too. So we got the heavy weights, we got the weights that looked a little bit more, not the girly weights, with our real weights.
Yeah, there's no pink weights or anything.
No, there's nothing pink or anything here, but I do like green. No, I like green.
You like green, okay.
Green's my colour. I wanted a space that was inclusive of everyone. Yep. I wanted the young, I wanted the old, I wanted the people who had done Pilates before and who hadn't. I wanted the people who were coming from the gym and trying Pilates for the first time. And also I really wanted to cater to those people who love reformer, but just I think probably that they've never wanted to go to a gym before. They like the reformer space, but I get to give them a little bit of gym.
Yeah, so it sort of scratches that itch.
It feels safer for them.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think that's really important too.
So with it's a bit of a different setup from ones that I've seen before. Not that I've seen too many. But so what as far as entry costs and all that sort of goes, so for a potential business owner, what is entry into a business like this like? Because there's not as much equipment as a normal gym, obviously.
Look, there's not as much equipment, but the equipment is not in itself cheap. But
it certainly doesn't look cheap.
No. So, but what I love about it from a business perspective is, obviously you want all your classes to be full. But at the end of the day, if I have this class full or 2 people or like whatever, it costs me the same amount to run. I have to pay an instructor. That's the same rate. So at the end of the day, I'm not throwing out any waste. At the end of the week, I haven't made a loss on anything. So I find from a business perspective, that's the thing that's most attractive to me.
And that certainly separates from, say, food businesses or anything like that.
Absolutely. And look, since starting in 2020, I now walk through shopping centres and just have this sort of sense of like empathy for all the businesses who do at the end of the day have to throw out food or retail stores that have to fill their walls with merchandise just so it looks full.
Yeah.
And you've got to constantly keep on filling that so it looks full. Whereas here, once you've done your fit out, you fit it out with good instructors. You run a tight schedule, and you obviously treat your instructors well and your community well. Those classes will fill, but they cost you the same amount to run every time.
And it's interesting because from people looking at this type of business, so people watching this thinking about the franchise business model, comparing this, I suppose they're more comparing this to other fitness products out there. So, for example, there's a lot more equipment in many other things. So you're not turning over. These things last a long time, don't they?
They last a very, very long time.
Yeah.
And the dumbbells, they should never die.
Yeah.
I think the things that we replace sometimes, the silver squishy ball, sometimes people get a little bit excited.
Get a bit and push them, yep.
And look, to
I've seen those on Fail Army Pop.
I think that's wonderful. Like, I'm like, wow, you've really tried hard on that one. And the Pilates ring, they're the two bits of equipment, and the TheraBand, 3 bits of equipment that you may have to replace.
It's pretty straightforward, yeah.
But the rest of it is, obviously we have a very good cleaning schedule, and we make sure we maintain our equipment a couple of times a year. They're serviced. Our instructors are taught how to maintain the equipment as well, and to constantly check it to make sure that the wrist springs are still taut, which is another important thing. Those in the industry will know what that means.
Yep.
That's really important to us. That the instructors know the equipment, and then and our students know the equipment, so that everyone can respect it and it can last.
Excellent. So, getting into one of these. So I know you do a very much like a done for you type of thing. So it's not like so how does the involvement? So turnkey, that's the common phrase everyone uses. So for a potential franchise owner, what is it? What's involved in getting into one of these, and what do you do, and what do you not do, and how does the separation happen?
Well, first off, getting in touch and deciding whether or not we're the right studio for you, we're the right brand for you, and then finding the location that the franchisee is passionate about, because community is such a big thing for us. Yep. So we want our franchise owners to be invested and present in the business. I think that's the way that.
So you're not really like an investor style one, like put an investor in, grab it.
No, not really. And I think we've actually got in our agreement that if there is an investor, that we dictate who the studio manager is.
Yeah.
Because having that face and that presence in the studio is what will grow your community. And I think that's just a really important part of our brand and how I see us growing. So once we decide that we're the right fit for each other, we find the location that works for the franchisee, then we find an actual site, and sometimes that process is quick, and sometimes that process can take a little bit of time.
The sites are challenging, especially in a city for sure.
Yeah.
What sort of square metres, like what size are you after
Minimum
normally?
150 up to 250. Honestly, anything greater than 250 is too much.
Yeah.
If again you're thinking at like 12 reformers, a good space is about a really good space is about the 200 square metre mark.
Yep.
But then you've got
the sweet spot.
It's a very sweet spot. Then you have to try and find the space that is that, and that is harder. So a lot of spaces are larger than that, or slightly smaller than that. We need spaces that have high ceilings. We need spaces that where sound isn't an issue, as you experienced this morning when you came on in.
I thought we were in the wrong place.
It was quite loud.
I didn't realise.
So we do get quite loud, and we don't want to annoy any neighbours. So we want to be in a space where we can put the music up loud and everyone enjoy it. So high ceilings, no pylons. You'll see that there's nothing obstructing anyone's view, and that's very important to us. So we've got a lot of parameters that we need to find the right location. And once we do, then I have all my trades that I've worked with over my last 4 studios now, and we just roll it out. So I do it all, and then the franchisee just pays the actual bill. So it's like, okay, here's the flooring bill, here's the mirrors.
You keep it very transparent like that.
And then, exactly. And then once it's done, and that fit out can take less than 2 weeks once we've got the location. Honestly,
because there actually doesn't look like a lot of works really.
Quick.
Yeah.
I give them the key to their new studio.
Excellent.
And it looks very similar to this.
So with your location strategy, do you need high traffic areas, or what is your thinking around that?
What I've realised over the last few years is that studios that have access to a shopping centre or other amenities is really important. I think my first studio in the Cannery in Rosebery is highly successful because there's another reason for people to go there. So you're not sort of asking people to go off the beaten track. So I think that is important. Also, the shared amenities that are available in shopping centres like that. You don't have to be in charge of your own toilets and showers, which is amazing.
That's a joy. Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, it's wonderful. But ultimately, street signage and being accessible, I think is important.
Yep.
And then also, it depends. Our latest opening up in Surrey Hills, which is basically Sydney CBD, there's really no parking, but that doesn't concern us too much because the clientele are going to be people who live in the area and work in the area.
Yeah, so they're commuting in one way or another anyway, aren't they?
Our more suburban studios, we think about, street parking or 2-hour free parking in the area just to make it a little bit easier for them. So if you're going to go a bit more regional, you want to make sure that they can park. But I think CBD people, they're people who are training before work, middle, lunchtime and after work. So they're commuters anyway. They're not looking to park their cars.
So you mentioned, moving on from the locations and stuff there, you mentioned before about having a trainer. So a trainer wanders around during a session and everything. So what is the skill? Is that the franchise owner generally who is doing that, or are you employing trainers? I know you've obviously got trainers who are doing that. And how do you go about training those people to get them up to a certain spec?
So all our instructors need to be certified reformer instructors. There's a bonus, it's bonus if they've done their PT certification as well.
Yep.
We run the HIIT Pilates Academy multiple times during the year, and we're also launching our online teacher training, which is a nationally accredited course, and that's going to be starting the online component in February of next year.
Would have been a bit of work in that.
There was a lot of work into that. A lot of work into that.
Yeah.
So I basically in the second lockdown decided I needed to do something.
You needed a distraction?
I needed a distraction, and I decided to write a Pilates reformer course. So ours is very comprehensive. It includes anatomy and pre and postnatal training, and also covers over 75 of the main reform exercises and how you can modify them, tweak them, make them exciting.
So what was the process? And when you started this out, were you thinking that you would have a nationally accredited training program?
Was that the vision
or dream?
When I opened my first studio, I think I just thought I'd do just one. And within about 3 months, I was looking at my next location.
So you need more people.
I realised it was, I really liked doing what I was doing. And then the second lockdown happened. And then I was like, also I thought it had been probably something that was probably in the back of my mind, writing a teacher training course. And then realising what I'd achieved in terms of opening 2 studios, I thought, well, actually, I can do that if I want to.
Yep.
And I had time. So
we all had time.
We all had time. So I had time. It did take a number of months to write and then get it accredited. But once it was done and we launched the teacher training course in February 22. Since then, I've actually run out 11 face-to-face courses.
Wow. So they attend.
Yeah,
how long
so
do
it's
they
a
run
6 weeks course.
Okay.
6-week course, and there's up to 12 students in each. So just completed my 11th, and of that, a majority of them I've actually employed in my studios. With that teacher training, they can actually teach at any reformer studio in Australia.
Okay, so they go out and
they can go out into the big wide world and do it.
Great.
It will be a globally accredited course by early next year, which is very exciting.
Wow, that is.
Yeah, that's just a personal thing, I guess. But in terms of
just another tick.
It's just another tick, yeah. But in terms of us for a franchisee, staffing is a really big thing, and having instructors, obviously with any sort of health and wellness, you've got classes starting at 5 a.m., 6 a.m., you've got nighttime classes, you've got weekend classes.
It's all types, isn't it? Then,
and ultimately instructors are people, so they are prone to call in sick or have a party or go on holiday. And I find that my instructors are incredibly loyal and incredibly reliable because we've encouraged them to be that way through paying them well, paying them on time, staff bonuses, Christmas parties, and constant training and mentoring.
And giving
as well.
them that training is part of career progression, isn't it?
Exactly.
They probably see a career path as well.
Those graduates who've come through the HIIT Pilates Academy, obviously all that stuff is quite fresh. And then in addition to that, every quarter we do a staff workout where I give them a class and we sort of break down what made that class, what I felt made that class work and was successful, and how I'd like to see elements of that class flowed out with their classes going forward.
Yes.
We also have a training manager Cam, who you met earlier, and she regularly attends instructors' classes, and then she just gives them some really, really constructive feedback, like beautiful, beautiful feedback that just encourages them in their growth as an instructor. So I think growth as an instructor is really important. I think in the fitness industry, some people just get their certification and then just, especially because it's quite transient,
and then they just move on to something else. Yeah.
And I really love that my instructors have stayed around for some of them up to sort of four years. I just lost one of my instructors who started with me, and that's simply because she lives in Georges Hall, which is about like an hour's drive away.
That's fair.
And
fair effort.
It was absolutely fair. And when she called me and she was really upset, I was like, please. The fact that you've done that for so long.
And that's not the norm,
grateful.
Is it? That's not the norm?
Not the norm. No, it's not the norm. Usually
you've worked in a number of studios and facilities.
So prior to opening, I was an instructor for 7 years before I opened my own studio, and I worked at multiple studios, and I think that was what led me to. Well, that really helped me set up HIIT Pilates in the way that I thought was going to be most successful for me as a business owner and for the community. Because I'd seen what studios had done well, and I'd seen what I thought they'd really fallen short on. I'd experienced managers who managed really well, and I experienced managers who fell short. And with all of that information, when I was creating my formula and basically the brand and how the product was going to roll out, I used all of that and was like, right, I want to create a studio that I would want to pay a membership for.
Yeah, to be part of.
And I think that was, and so even come down to our price point.
Yeah.
We've only increased our prices once since opening because I still think it needs to be an accessible price point to get lots of people in. And I don't want it to be a stress for them. Like, there's got to obviously be enough to cover our costs, but it's also got to be enough that brings in a lot of people. I think you can charge a premium and have fewer people come, or you charge a realistic amount and you have full classes.
And that's just a rule of thumb, isn't it? That's just
sort of really
that's
is,
test and
but
measure,
so many don't.
it?
Like, I look at some of my competitors and I think, my goodness, that's a really hefty price for a drop-in rate. So price point for students is important to us as well as our franchisees making money.
So you are, we'll say, drum roll, you've got your first franchise opening shortly.
Very exciting.
I know you are very excited.
We're in the fit-out process now, which is very, very exciting.
Excellent. That is exciting. So that'll be the fourth HIIT Pilates.
Fourth HIIT Pilates, yes.
So it's the fourth one, but you've had 3 of your own. So you've run 3 and you started in 2020. So it's now near the end of 2024.
Yeah.
So you would know what you're doing, I'm guessing, by now, which is why. So why is the magic number of 3? Why did you get to 3 and do it? Had you thought about franchising before that, or did you want to get further proof of concept, or can you talk me through your thinking around franchising now?
Yeah, look, to be honest, when I first started the business, my plan was to have, and I just remember this, you asked me earlier, I wanted 8 in Sydney. That was
your goal?
I was going to own all of them.
Yeah.
And then COVID happened.
Yeah.
And I went, oh God, I don't want 8 leases.
That was the same sound all of us made.
I don't want 8 leases on my head. And so it was actually during COVID that I was like, I still want to grow more studios, but I just don't want to hold all the leases myself.
Yep.
And then obviously with the teacher training, that opened up some doors for people who actually, and I've still got a backlog of HIIT Pilates graduates who their intention is to open a studio. So they've done the course in the last couple of years, and now they're just getting all their ducks in a row. Shirley, who's opening up our Surrey Hills studio, is a HIIT Pilates graduate. So she did my first teacher training course back in 22. She's been teaching for me since then, and now she's ready to open up her own one. I think at the end of the day, my ideal instructor is someone, my ideal franchisee is an instructor who wants their own space, but but likes, I guess, being led and guided and how to do it.
Yeah, but they don't have to be an instructor beforehand, do they?
No, they don't. Okay. They don't have to be an instructor beforehand, but it would, if they are not going to then do the HIIT Pilates course, then I then put in a studio manager.
Yeah, you need a nominated manager.
Absolutely. Yeah. That is just pivotal. Without it, it won't work.
Well,
people see that
everything,
it's inauthentic.
Yeah, it compromises everything, doesn't it? Compromises the product.
Absolutely.
Because you want community, you want people being taught very, very well and looked after. Yeah, so it's essential.
The person who is employing their staff, I think they should know how to do it, to be honest. They might not be the best instructor in the world, and they may only do one shift a week, but I think they should know what they're asking their instructors to do. So because also then they're going to see whether or not their instructors are doing it well. Yeah. And I think that's that constant just guidance. Yeah. And it's not a set and forget. It's making sure that the studio is constantly providing the best service for their community.
Excellent. I think we've got a good taste now on HIIT Pilates, and it's not just a normal reformer Pilates as I found out when I got here. But thanks for filling us in on a bit of detail on it.
Yeah, lovely.
And that's it again for another episode of the Franchise Everything podcast. If you like this, please share, subscribe, and do all that sort of stuff. And we'll catch you in the next one soon.